Welcome to another episode of the Secure by Design podcast by Secnora, where we explore how cybersecurity, AI, and data governance shape the world we live and build in. I'm your host, Daniel Kulig, and in a very episode, we bring together innovators, experts who live at the intersection of technology and trust. Um, Today's topic is one that touches every organization, from startups to global enterprises. How big the data and privacy are governed across AI and cybersecurity. It's where opportunity meets responsibility and sometimes tensions. Okay. Uh, and to help us unlock this, I'm joined by Horatio Morgan, a respected voice in digital innovation, governance, and strategy. Horatio, it's great to have you on the show today. Hello.
Thank you, Daniel. It's my pleasure being here. Thank you for the invite. I really appreciate it, and I
Great.
love
We're
talking.
so cheerful and helpful to have you on the show today. So Horatio, again, as I said, thank you for joining us today. And to start our, dialogue discussion today, can you please tell us about your current role? Maybe a little bit about your background and how you came to, specialize in the intersection of, the big data, the AI, the privacy, and of course the cybersecurity. If you could shed some light on this for us, that would be great.
Well, my story is an interesting one, right? I started out with the Jamaican government as a management analyst in
Okay.
Jamaica,
Okay.
and I started out doing business transformation. I realized when I went into organization, we were just looking at the structures and the functional divisions. We had to do a lot of people work, right? A lot of people work when we're doing process improvement and process transformation, and that set the stage for me to each time I'm working, I'm looking at different areas to see what really can make it a more complete approach
Hmm.
to it.
Okay.
Back then, we were talking about evidence-based decisions. See, I don't know if you know that period when governments were all about evidence-based decisions.
Right. Right. I've heard that.
Yes. So I had a background in data because I'm a double major in economics and statistics. So everything was about evidence-based decisions. But then
Mhm.
I realized that we wanted evidence-based decisions, but we didn't have any data. So it started clicking in my head that wait, data is the foundation of everything, which now brings me forward through the evolution of what is happening, where I now focus my work at intersection of business transformation, AI, and governance. And I look at how we can turn complexity into clarity. I speak a lot about explainable AI. I've written a few things on that. You can see my stuff on LinkedIn. So that is how I got into this area, by just looking forward and seeing where what is happening in terms of AI. And then I realized with the neural network and the black box effect that if you don't understand what is happening in the neural network, how are
Mhm.
you going to be putting in safeguards? And then we had persons just building systems and not looking at privacy. And it clicked 100% for me when I looked at data privacy and I realized that there's just no security being placed on in these models. No security. Yeah, we speak about zero trust strategy, but what is the collaboration across functional areas? There's no talking. I've seen it where individuals are not talking, they're not working together. For instance, you have a NIST, right? The
Mhm.
data protection officers use it.
Yeah.
cybersecurity individuals use it. And AI individuals should be using it. Why can't our governance look at things like that across the board?
Good question. Yeah. Yep. So, yeah, Horatio, I mean, it seems such a quite a journey. It sounds you like you've been standing at the crossroads of like innovation, governments, regulation, long before it came fashionable, I would say. So let's unpack that world for a bit. So I have another question right away. I mean, it's kind of like a bridge between the first question. What has been a turning point, or like I would say a key moment in your professional journey that made you passionate about how data privacy and AI meet? You know, like that one little thing.
Okay, for me, it came about in my program at Oxford. I'm completing the Oxford postgraduate diploma in AI for business.
Impressive.
And I'm almost at the end right now. I'm actually at the end right now. When I was looking at AI and I was learning about AI, it never really clicked the way it should click because I didn't understand the foundation of where does AI, where does data fit into the system, right? I was trained on statistics, so I had a base knowledge. I did econometrics. I published a paper on that. I did correlation until
Mhm.
I met with MLOps and those things in the course. And then it clicked that if you don't understand data, you're not going to understand AI, right? When you're speaking about overfitting, you're speaking
Mhm.
about underfitting, you're speaking about model drift. That is AI, but that in itself is metadata, how you
Oh
manage your
yeah.
data, right? Then you're talking about how you manage that data.
Mhm.
What's the regulations in play? EU Act is a very strict act. We're talking about percentages now, right? Percentages. You're talking about fines. You're talking about civil disputes. So the importance of it dawned on me to say, hey, I need to now start focusing on this.
Mhm.
These areas are going to be the core areas going forward because AI will change, cybersecurity will change. You're talking about zero-day attacks now, and it's changing. But privacy will remain, big data will remain, and AI will remain in some form. So yes, it's definitely a triad for me.
Nice, nice. I truly love that. Great. You know, every expert has that one aha moment when technology suddenly becomes human. So yours clearly sparked a lifelong curiosity, I would say. So thumbs up on that. Okay. Let's continue. And the next topic I want to like touch base with you. It's on big data, AI, cybersecurity. You know, the whole just let's kind of like look at the overall core landscape. And my question to you, Horatio, is how often uh, you know how often do you hear like big data, AI, machine learning, cybersecurity? You know, all these like almost like trendy or buzzwords. And can you clarify how they really relate in practice in real life? For instance, you know how big data powers AI, how AI is using especially in cybersecurity, and where the privacy risks tend to emerge. What's your take on that?
Okay, let me give you a story. I like to give stories.
Mm.
I'm the co-convener here in Atlanta of the AI Cybersecurity Forum. We'll be having our second sitting shortly. When we went into our first meeting, we were speaking entirely about cybersecurity.
Right.
And then we found out during the discussion that AI must be involved in it. We were not prepared for that, but we had the training and the knowledge and the know-how, and also that data was a part of that conversation. You couldn't exclude one or the other out of that discussion because they are interrelated. And this comes back to the point that I want to make here. Big data, AI, and cybersecurity. When you look at privacy, there is a correlationship there, right? And I'm gonna show you how there's a correlationship there in a step-by-step format. All right, so big data, metadata fuels AI, right? They are what the LMMs are built on. They need data, big data, a lot of data to fuel these LLMs. And in terms of data, what do we need for good data? Because I'm going through step by step. What do we need? We need quality and diversity, right? And that will adjust for overfitting and underfitting. So if data is the fuel for AI models, then cybersecurity comes in where it's meant to protect AI, ensuring that these models pipelines are not compromised. So you see, we are moving from the models built on data there, and then the models now with that data, personal data of individuals, of organization not being compromised. So that's where the cybersecurity comes in. And AI can be used, AI now can be used to enhance security, can be used for threat detection, anomaly, adaptive defenses, and so forth. So AI in combination with cybersecurity, you can use that now to try and protect your data. Of course, you have things like endpoint security and all of those things, all of those areas that you need to protect. Everywhere that the model touches an external source is a source for data poisoning, is a source for invasion, is a source for prompt injection, right?
Yeah.
So we need to address all areas. We need to adjust all areas. We must balance. And there's this phenomenon also that we are looking for more speed. We are looking for more accuracy, right?
That's where we're
More
going.
speed, more accuracy. And we want to get it small. We are talking about minimization. But do we realize that every byte of data adds both insight and exposure? What do I mean? More data, you can get more insight. But more data gives hackers opportunities to get into your system, right? You're talking about a cost of about $600 million now in terms of the cost of hacking. It's a big business now. And therefore, we need the cybersecurity to protect your data and your models, but we also need the data to make the models work. So there's that interrelationship that exists there. And privacy is now the balancing point where we define how far we can go with our responsibility versus exposure of the model.
Okay, I mean, love it. That is a great breakdown, and it makes you realize that when everything connects, everything can also be exposed. So
Yep.
the web of the data is so powerful, and to me, little terrifying at the same time. So thanks for your insights on this. All right. So also from your experience, professional experience, what are the biggest tensions or trade-offs when you have to balance the scale of data, like for example volume, velocity, variety, with security and privacy constraints?
Well, it comes back again to scale of the data versus the security. As
Okay.
the data volume increases, you get more data to secure, right? More
Correct.
data to secure. You need more space to secure that data. You have more access points within the data, API governance, and all of those things. And with all of that now, that's where the tension come in. How do I balance the amount of data do I have with the security level? Bearing in mind that the hackers are well ahead of us,
Always will be, believe me.
right? And they're always seeking to find a way. You can send one line and mess up a whole model. Just one line, one sentence. And therefore, how do we secure versus scale?
Mm-hmm.
That is the main tension for me right now in the industry.
Yeah. I mean, exactly right. Pretty much like everyone wants more data until they come to the conclusion or they realize how much responsibility comes with it. So pretty much the bigger the data set, the bigger the ethical, should I say it, hangover? So pretty much that's how I
Yeah,
see it also,
yeah.
Yeah. So okay, very, very good reasoning. Also, Horatio, are there particular classes of attacks or threat vectors that arise, especially because organizations are, you know, leveraging AI on large data sets, or because misgovernance of privacy in that context? What would you say?
Well, it's I just based them in one main category because
Mhm. Okay.
because of the whole environment that we're in
Hmm.
and the unknownness of AI. Because I do think
True.
that AI is gonna change within 2 to 5 years, but that's another discussion
That's another
down the
discussion.
road, you
Hmm.
know. So we're talking about emerging threats such as data poisoning, the corruption of the
Oh,
data,
okay.
right? We spoke earlier about how easily we can corrupt the data and get the training model to drift away from the original model, right? Once you corrupt the training model, original model is corrupted, and therefore you will not receive the output that you're looking for. Essentially, it will be a new model, something that the hackers can use. You're talking about model inversion. Now, this is where privacy comes in, right?
Hmm.
This is extracting personal data from trained models. Trained
Uh-huh.
models, the hackers find a way how to get to your data. To pull that data from the system. It's easy now with AI because I say this thing, the most creative individuals are going to be the leaders in this AI age.
Oh yeah. Oh
Just
yeah.
all it takes is just typing something. If you're very
Hmm.
creative, typing a prompt or thing,
Hmm.
you'll be able to get around any system.
I
So
mean,
you have to be able to do with creativeness. So that's a constant exposure. And we talked about prompt injection,
mhm.
LLM leakage,
No,
information being leaked from the
absolutely.
LLM, simply putting. There's also a thing called shadow data, right? Shadow data, which is untracked or duplicated data set across cloud platforms. I don't hear a lot about that. Have you heard
No,
about that?
no, absolutely not.
Yeah, so they're like duplicating the data and placing it in different spaces within the cloud so they can use it. So I mean, and I'm sure that there are many more out there that we probably have heard of or will hear of in time.
Hmm. Okay, so I mean, it is really interesting what you said, and to me, I mean, one conclusion would be, pretty much the the smarter the system gets, the smarter the attackers become. So,
Yep.
I mean, it's like a very expensive, or world's most expensive game of chess or digital chess nowadays. So, yeah, I mean, this is, like in the game, chess game. I mean, you have to be couples, steps ahead, in your head to figure out how you can actually, you know, play the opponent. So it's very similar in that field as well.
You know, one thing that surprised me at Hacker Halted 2025 the other day
Yes.
is when one of the speakers said that organizations are not tapping into the knowledge of the knowledge of Hacker Halted and other important defense organizations to see what is happening in the industry, the latest information. And I just think that is ludicrous because you need to know what is happening out there. And
Exactly.
it will get me into my other point about separation of roles. If you have one person doing all the roles, then you will not get as much done as you need to get done. But that's coming down.
That's right. Indeed. Let's now dig into government space. In your opinion, Horatio, who are the key stakeholders within an organization when it comes to governing privacy in AI and cybersecurity? So, for example, CPO, CIO, CSO, or any other like legal, or maybe even data scientists, you name them. And following question is how should responsibilities to be divided or rather coordinated among those?
That's a good question. Basically, for me, governance is the who, what, where, and how of data, right? Of
Yeah.
AI systems. And it's interesting. I put it in this opening statement that true data governance is not a department, it's a coordinated teamwork.
Mm-hmm.
Teamwork, that's the first thing. And it's cross functionally built, meaning that there are many different players. And it's like an orchestra that you have one player, one individual leading the orchestra. What I did not see when I did the research is the chief AI officer. And
Oh.
that person is very important in my eyes because that person is the one who will be leading the orchestra, looking at the different areas, leading and people. I'm an organizational change manager, so I was trained. If you separate the people from the organization, you're not gonna get any result.
Mm-hmm.
Training, getting the people, the building the culture. And I will say something about the culture after I go through. So we definitely need our CPO and CAIO, which is a chief AI officer. They can focus on policy, but it's mainly
Mm-hmm.
the orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
The leader is mainly this chief AI officer, right? You have the chief privacy officer who does legal. You have the CIO and the CTO who looks at the architecture. The CISO who looks at your defense. You're talking about red teaming and so forth. And then you're talking about the data scientist model who looks at the model. Your legal team who definitely has to look at the risk because you're talking about data protection. That's regulatory, and you do have a civil side to it. Business process management. I am a Lean Six Sigma green belt. No,
Yeah.
your processes must be in place. A lot of persons, they're ready for AI, but they're not ready for process. They don't have their data in place, right? They don't have those things in place, and therefore they're not able to build an AI native environment, right? They're not able to build an AI native environment that can truly benefit from the implementation of AI. And as I said, governance isn't a department. All your processes for each department must be in place because you need that co-functionality. And if you can't see across departments, look at it. You need to build a data privacy culture. One,
Mm-hmm.
you need to build a AI first culture and AI first data privacy and security. You need to build a people culture to respond to your people. Now, seemingly I have three different areas, but it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
How you get your people involved, how you build and manage a system. From the top up, governance starts from the top up. You have to be, and I like to say, you need to be modeling the behavior at the top so that your team can see. I mean, it depends on the size of your organization, how you deploy your resources. But one key factor is how you model the governance, how you implement it, how it's structured, how it's rolled out, how you deploy it, whether you use a management approach, which is always best. You know, using a project management approach, you can control your costs, you can control your timeline, you can control your resources. I'm actually certified as a project manager too, so I
Okay.
understand that.
Oh
So
yes, you know it.
building your culture, building your structure, looking at your resources, what is really feasible and realistic, how you plan that out. That all of that goes into what your governance looks like, you know. How is it developed? How is it rolled out?
Yeah, I clearly hear you, and to me, it's like it's no brainer. I mean, it's not just about the tech. It's about people. It's about the teamwork, and this is truly something that is tangible at the end of the day. So also, like, something came to my head as an analogy, like, in terms of like the governance. I mean, governments, to me personally, because I like the analogies a lot in my life. So it sounds like it's a lot like a rally race, uh, so it's always competing, but still, at the end, the best wins, and there's only one winner always.
Oh,
So
there's a point that I forgot to make.
uh-huh.
What's your take on the CISO taking on the role of governance leader? Does that take away from the whole efforts of the organization? Because I see some organizations moving towards CISOs, CIOs taking over the role of the chief AI officer, which I don't agree with in terms of what is that, because you do have different roles. As I said, the CIO he deals with the people itself and the vendors
I
and
mean,
so forth.
yeah, I mean, that's a very good question. I mean, I would say, I'm a business guy, so for me, I look at these things a little different, from a very different angle, from a different perspective. And to me, I mean, in today's world, full of technology, and the world that it is, AI plug and play, all from different angles. So for me, I mean, for example, if you are a CIO, chief information officer, or security officer, I think your role should not only be, focusing on the technical aspects of, just, looking at this very narrow angle. I think modern, you know, officers, like, for example, the CIOs, whatever. I mean, they should be actually understanding more also, not only the governments, not only the technical aspects, but also, I mean, they should definitely look at the whole spectrum of other factors. And what I actually think that actually factors, more business, decision based, factors, should be also taken into consideration by those, executives, because it's no longer the world that we remember. If I was I'm a finance guy, so if I was a CFO for all my life, and that was the only thing I cared about, and I had no understanding of information security, that was still fine a couple years back. But nowadays,
That's
this is
true.
all changing. And I
That's
I
true.
strongly, when I talk to different organizations, especially like big corporations, they still fail to recognize this. And I tell them, listen, beware, because if you guys don't start to at least acknowledge each other from, I mean, different departments, and start understanding each other, it's gonna fall apart one day, because the world is changing. You cannot just be individualists. You should work as a team again, and make it combined decisions, I would say. So this is my,
Ah,
yeah. And you will see, I mean, this is my personal opinion, but you will see this, I think, playing a more role in a very near future, you know.
um,
So
so basically, I have a friend, a technology friend,
okay,
and he was saying to me, Horatio, you need to dig down a lot more into your background.
exactly,
Remember, you're from business process transformation,
yeah.
organizational change and transformation, and you understand? And he thinks that these are some of the persons who are going to be critical mass going forward in the industry, for the main reason that they are the ones who will bring the organization together. Just like the way you're talking about looking at the
Mm,
department, the
yeah,
functionalities,
yeah.
the legal. He thinks that these are some of the most critical people outside of technology that will bring the organization forward. So in a sense, he's saying what you are saying.
Exactly. So I think it's I mean, uh, I'm not like a, storyteller. I mean, I'm not a, little, predictor of the future, but I think I see it a lot. And I mean, I mean, the near future will tell, and we'll actually, we're gonna realize that. And I mean, I would love to be wrong, but I think I can sense that this is the new type of organizations that I'm gonna see. You know, and it's gonna be, unfortunately. I mean, that's probably a topic for a different conversation, but. It definitely, just to keep it your answer short, this is what I believe, and let's see if I was right
We'll
or
come
wrong.
back here next year or a year
Exactly.
and a half from now and check
Yeah,
it out.
exactly. We can touch base, Horatio, and we'll see what's going on. Okay, so
Definitely.
now another topic, like not a question for you. Which legal or regulatory regimes do you see as most influential right now in shaping how organizations govern big data, the privacy, AI? So, like, GDPR, CCPA, like you have the sectoral laws, AI specific proposals, on, and whatever in that space. So what do you
Um,
see?
basically, basically, I think we can look no further than the EU.
Hmm.
We are talking about GRC
Yeah.
originally, and then
Yes.
you went into GDPR and DPO. The EU has influenced the world there. There's no different regions having their own version of that,
Correct. So far,
right?
yes. Hmm.
Yeah, they have their own different versions of that, and they're implementing now. Even right now, some organizations, and then you move into the EU AI Act, which they're still working through. It's not perfect, but it's still being worked on. But it's also supported by the DGA, the Data Governance Act, that looks at transmission of data across entities. Now, this is going to be crucial because you're talking about endpoint protection here,
Yep. Yep.
people's personal information. So, even if you do have the different organizations, established privacy organizations for training, everything will come from this. I mean, persons are already adopting it. United States, we have our data laws, but in some way or shape, there is a version of what is happening in Europe.
Hmm.
It is said that Europe is highly regulated and it stifles innovation. And
Yep.
it says that the United States is deregulated and a lot of craziness happens here. But at some point, there's going to be a merging, hopefully, and
Yep.
there's going to be that balance. But with the all new system, it takes a time to work itself out, Even
Mhm.
AI, for instance, the AI that we know this year is not the same AI that we knew last year.
Oh, of
And
course.
therefore, regulations are always a step behind. So as it works it out, work with some grace and just try and get up to date as quickly as possible with as much information as we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I mean, true, true, true. The legal complexity of the maze is really growing fast. I mean, I mean, I look at the companies. They're they finish reading one regulation and another shows up. So it's like never ending story, pretty much.
That's why you
Um,
need a DPO and you need a
exactly.
data protection officers separate from your cybersecurity officers, separate from your
Correct.
chief AI officer.
I fully support that. Yes. So, also in your view, what are the main practical tools then, like frameworks or maybe standards? Like organizations use or maybe should
Well,
adapt to ensure privacy is respected in their AI data cyber stack space. Like for example, privacy by
the number one
design,
is
differential privacy, maybe federated learning. Encryption is another one. Audits, impact assessments, etc.
yeah, well, definitely the
Mm-hmm.
NIST as we spoke about because it can go across functionality. I know personality is one of the favorite in data protection, and it's
Yep.
also one of the favorite in cybersecurity.
Okay.
I will extend to that is like one of the main frameworks that we use. You're talking also about the ISOs, which is very important. These set the standards in terms of data protection and AI application. So the ISOs are very good. The NIST is very good. And then we can come back to some of the things across Europe, the EU, the EU framework. And let me talk about one important thing
Uh-huh.
that we don't do. I just wrote a piece on it on LinkedIn. It's called
Okay.
Explainable AI.
Okay. What
That
is it?
framework has been around from the 70s. So it's
Okay.
research is decades old. And what it does is that it looks at the complexities. It foresaw that AI would come with a lot of complexities and how you explain that complexity, focusing on bias, ethics, discrimination, and so forth, privacy, legal governance, and some other areas. How best do you communicate this to
Mhm.
regulators?
Right.
Your documentation to your stakeholders. Because if we can't speak AI non-technically, then
No.
it makes no sense,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the explainability framework, I have a white paper out on it. I've developed a white paper for it, and I did it in Culture Day and speaking about breaking it down for the mass how you implement it, and it's also a compliance tool in my view, compliance and regulatory tool. So I think that is also a framework that will be of use to individuals within the sector.
Yeah. I mean, very solid explanation, very solid tools that you mentioned. Though I bet half of the listeners probably just Googled many of these. You know, but it's encouraging to see. Anyway, privacy finally becoming part of the engineering conversation, not an afterthought. Okay. So in high stakes domain, for example, like healthcare, finance, my favorite, or national security, do you think standard governance mechanisms are enough, or do we need additional oversight or novel regulatory models? Maybe you could share some thoughts, or maybe if you have examples, that's even better. I mean, you mentioned you like stories, examples.
Not a lot on it, except that it's a very, how should I put this? It's a very it's a balancing act, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
Right
yeah.
now, for instance, with healthcare,
Right.
uh, it's
Very.
highly regulated, and we can understand why. A simple mistake will cause a life.
Yes.
Seen, but we do need a mechanism that will encourage innovation, but also maintain the regulations, right? So, for instance, in COVID, we looked at the example of the detection of COVID within populations, and they were able to use AI to figure out where the most deaths would occur, and they looked at the culture and everything. Now, if you review that research,
Uh-huh.
it would never have passed now because some of the regulations were relaxed
Oh,
to get that
yeah.
information in that crisis.
Right.
I'm not saying that we should, but we should look at a way to encourage innovation within the healthcare. Yes, there are some front end tools like when they're looking at records or those things, imaging. They're using AI a lot in those core areas to move the tools along. But at its core, it's a bit dormant because I know a lot of individuals are literally shying away from going into healthcare because of the regulations. And
Mhm.
I suspect that with government regulators too, um, there is some tension there, I would
Yeah,
think.
yeah. Mhm. Yeah, good point. Good point. I mean, in those sectors that we touched on, I mean, a privacy mistake isn't just bad PR. I would say it's life changing. As we said. So governments there needs to move as fast as innovation. I also say because if it falls behind, then it could have some implications, serious ones. Uh, okay, so just moving on. Other thoughts that came to my head: how do we, in your opinion, how do we manage cross-border data flows, given varying privacy regimes when AI models are often global or use data from many different jurisdictions? I mean,
Here is a tension there.
I would think,
Uh,
yeah.
the tension is we need compatibility,
Mm-hmm.
right? We need understanding. We need collaboration. Compatibility meaning that my system will be able to talk to your system. But then here's the issue there. There's always that opportunity for the bad players to get into the system. When you're talking about compatibility, that means information is out there. So, how do you protect this information while encouraging and building collaboration, transmission of data? I know the DGA, the Data Governance Act of EU, is trying to do such a thing, and I know other countries are modeling based on that. But let me give you an example of a discussion I had
Perfect.
with one of my colleagues recently in terms of the transmission of data. It spoke about the EU Act saying that you shouldn't share certain information. But then, based on how the Act is set up, there's another section that speaks about being able to share that information under
Mm-hmm.
certain conditions. But you have to read the document very well to see what they're talking about. I'm still going through the EU Act to make sure that I fully understand it because it's that complex while you're still reviewing the EU Act because I'm hearing that there's some revision that is coming out on it. So you definitely have to stay on top of it as it relates to the United States and their relationship with the EU and their objections to certain information passing. That also brings into effect some amount of complexity in terms of the transmission of the data. What is important to me in the EU? What is important to me in the US? How do we manage this? What are the penalties that will be associated?
Exactly.
And the penalties really is the content, the information, yes, because you are exposing people's information, but there are some huge penalties that are associated with the whole act.
For sure, for sure, for sure. Exactly. I mean, I'm looking at this all everything like as a broad, you know, subject, and this, I mean, to me, it's like, you know, I mean, very simple again analogy, like trying to drive one car under a, you know, under 10 different traffic laws. I mean, you know, so the future of AI may depend as much on, how you call this, diplomacy, as
Yeah.
on data science. I mean, you know, so very important. All right. Now we actually, Horatio, we move to some fun stuff. Uh, could you walk us through real project or case you have seen or maybe worked on in your previous assignments, where, you know, the big data, AI, and privacy governance clashed? What were the challenges? How were they addressed, or not? And most important, what lessons emerged? Like, what have you learned?
I can give an amalgamation of some of the things that I've learned and I've seen.
Right.
For instance, let's look at a global insurer, right? They
Mm-hmm.
have a multi-regional AI model, and
Correct.
there's inconsistency in consent and lineage and everything. So different areas have different consent mechanism, and different information. And how do we align that? How do we align that? And the data is tiered governance, and the data is in a tiered governance, and they use a dashboard system. But then that dashboard system is not what's the word I'm looking for? Consistent across
Consistent approach.
regions.
Okay.
So how do we compare what is happening in one region versus what is happening in another region? And the
Mm-hmm.
KPIs are different. Plus, privacy was never looked at as an upfront area of importance.
Mm-hmm.
As with what is happening in the AI, privacy is now, and privacy was an afterthought until the fines started kicking in, until the court cases started coming up, ethics and bias also. You have examples of the workdays, which is generally known out there. The workday issue, the workday case that is in the court, where you're talking about ethics out there and discrimination, and there are many such cases right now. So privacy is really an afterthought. They're just getting to it now. And this is where the triad comes in terms of looking at data and privacy, AI, and cybersecurity. How they collect the data, how they clean the data. The data is not ready. That's the main reason data is not ready.
Not ready.
The
Mm-hmm.
processes are not ready, right?
Yeah. As
No
well.
data lineage tracking, the many problems with the data, legacy systems that are not compatible. How do you get these things in play to move your organization forward? And not having another big issue is not having that AI mindset.
Yeah.
Um, we are just, it's like a hodgepodge kind of a situation.
I like that. Yeah.
Next thing is that we don't know how to calculate the value of AI, right?
Right. Right.
We don't
That's
know how to
very
calculate the value.
unpredictable now. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and we don't know how to apply the value of AI. Where some companies or organizations are launching several AI projects
I
at
mean,
the moment.
I would say maybe every organization has a different meaning of their value, you know, because for some
Yeah.
organization value could be, you know, cost savings. For others, time savings, which equals money savings. So it really depends what the, you know, what are they looking for in terms of value in the AI. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So anyway, that's a very good example, Horatio. And I would say also like every company, every organization seems to learn governance the hard way, you know, at first. But you know, it's these uh, you know, like challenges, you know, all the battle scars that make the next, you know, iteration even smarter. So I think that's the way it should be done. There's no other way. Okay, so now let's talk about some maybe mistakes. So what is a mistake or oversight you have encountered in organizations or seen in public incidents, maybe that others should particularly watch out for when building AI systems that process personal data? What would you say?
Okay, let me
That's a hard one,
think on
right?
that for a moment. I'll definitely. Um, okay, I've seen this maybe not in Europe, probably in another aspect of the world where the government is
Yeah,
now forcing organizations
yeah, yeah.
to really incorporate data protection officers within the system, and it has resulted in major hacking. Well, again, disjointed data, not fully preparing the data for the implementation of AI, not putting in the proper securities, rushing through the building of
Mm-hmm.
models, not thinking about the layered approach, not thinking about red teaming, and they leave it up to the vendors to do a lot of the work while not
Yeah.
giving the vendors the proper instructions. Proper instructions meaning that
Mhm.
the policies,
The
your
policies.
organization policies, and your policies must be very inclusive and developed to give them instruction so that when the breach occurs, it's not the vendors who are held accountable, it's the organization. And if a vendor is gonna build his product with
Mm-hmm.
as much safety as you guarantee within your policy, your contract, right? They're gonna be building as with as much. And something just came to mind. It slipped me a while ago.
Okay.
Yes. You
That's
must have punitive measures within your vendor contract documentation. I know of an organization right now that the vendor is building the product without
yeah.
any documentation
Correct. Right. Right.
or
That,
little documentation. Now, how is it going to pass regulators? How do you know what are the privacy protocols within that product? And they are allowed to get away with it, and then the customer is the one who suffers because of it, because they didn't
of
have
course.
any proper governance in place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 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 that's right. That's you know, it reminds me of a very classic case of just because you can doesn't mean you should. So, like, you know, the data ambition often outpaces data wisdom. You know, that's kind of a classic that I've seen. So, okay. Um, Conversely, can you also share a um, success story? An organization that got the governments right and what they did well and what structural changes enabled that success. You know,
I
that should
recent
be more positive here. I would like to hear that.
I did current state analysis of a telecoms organization.
Okay.
And
Sounds good.
what was very good for me was when I looked at what was happening in the organization. They started off a bit rocky. The customers were complaining. They launched a chatbot series, but then they realigned to look at the roadmap, building a roadmap based on the information that we found in terms of the culture, the people, the capacity, where the maturity of the organization. All of this through assessment and realign their policies, building out their governance. And their customers are very, customer satisfaction rating has improved because they were able to realign back their chat box to form. I would say an example is adding more exit points where customers' needs could be addressed, one,
Mm-hmm.
and two, to address more high value concerns of the customers. So they started listening to the customers and adapting the model more to concerns of their customers based on just deciphering that where they are is just a starting point and they needed to do the work. Granted, they were not AI first at the moment, but they are still working on it in a structured kind of manner and not launching too many AI products. They're improving their training. They're building that cultural aspect of the organization to be responsive to their customers through their attitudes and their product that they're distributing or they're managing. So that is a positive example of what I've
Yeah,
seen.
that is very positive and it's very refreshing, I would say. It's really good to hear stories like that, stories that prove like privacy and innovation can actually be friends, not enemies. So awesome. Okay, now let's try to predict some future. Yeah, yeah, right, exactly. Especially with AI, right? So, looking ahead 3 to 5 years, Horatio, how do you see the landscape evolving in terms of regulations again, technology, and governance of big data,
I see the
privacy, AI,
merging.
cybersecurity?
I
And
see
if
the
you see any
merging.
major shifts,
Yeah, I see the
anticipating any.
merging.
Hmm.
Basically, the coming together of the organizations. Because remember, I know that as the learning improve, so does the adoption of the organization. Some organizations will fail and some will come on board. We don't know who yet. And some will be pulled on board because AI is not going back. AI is not
Okay.
changing. But I see a major shift in AI.
Yep.
I see where I think we'll be moving to quantum.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's my favorite, actually. Yep.
Once they sort out the qubits and stuff, because it will be more, it will address a lot of the vulnerabilities that
Hmm.
now exist in AI, right? So I see the major shift is going to quantum within 2 to 5
Actually, I
years,
agree with you 100%. Yeah.
and Oxford is working on a lot of that.
Not
So
only Oxford, unfortunately, everybody is like, China is, everybody is. So
that that is
it's
true.
going to
That
be a
is
lot of commotion.
true. So convergence of AI and privacy laws, unified data governance. We just spoke about that. Governance as code, automated audits. They're trying to work on some automated audits,
Hmm.
agentic approach within the AI space to do some of these audits. I think they have achieved that already. I think to some extent, the AI
Yeah.
enforcement of privacy, auto redaction, PI detection. So AI enforcement that comes with the agents. Leading there. I still think there's a risk there because if there's an opening that exists, then it's a risky proposition there.
Hmm.
Quantum safe encryptment
Oh,
emerging,
yes.
better encryptment emerging over time, which is why quantum is coming in. So those are the major areas that I think will be affected by AI and the future in
Yep.
terms of privacy and protection.
I mean, I love what you said because I also am a big follower of what is happening with quantum. So quantum AI and quantum physics and all that comes together. So I would say sounds like the next few years will be a test for everyone. Everyone's agility. From it doesn't matter if you're a regulator or engineer, everybody's gonna be affected. And I would say just something that came to my head right now. I think I'm not sure if you like it, Horatio. Tell me, but I think the new motto for us as people in the next few years should be adopt or encrypt. What do you think?
uh, in a way, encryption has been around for a while, so it's yeah.
Yeah,
Basically, I
right.
agree. And because it's basically adapt or encrypt or die. You're just not
Exactly.
seeing the or die part there. but basically, yeah, we have to make a shift. We
Exactly.
have
No,
to,
there's no
we
there's
have
no
to make
turning back for
no.
sure.
There's no turning back there.
Yeah,
I
no.
agree with
Okay,
you. 100%.
so okay, in terms of like advice, what advice would you give to organizations? It could be large or small, doesn't matter. Just starting out or scaling up in AI enabled services in terms of how they should build their governments, processes, guardrails, and obviously the culture.
All right. Advice for organizations.
Yeah.
Treat data as governed asset goal. Data is regarded as
Hmm.
goal. So treat it
Okay.
as goal, not exhaustible fuel. Treat it like your child. Your child. Privacy, just treat it that way. It's very important. And
Hmm.
corrupt data is bad for business. You can lose your business because of that in
Oh
several
yeah.
ways.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Hmm.
So build cross-disciplinary privacy councils early. If not council, have it on the team, have the voice there when you're planning your governance, literally. That we spoke about cross-functional teams already, and their voices must be heard, not drowned out because they're not the lawyers drowning out the other professionals, but having real conversations, looking at real issues and bringing them to the forefront. Everybody having a voice, diversity.
Hmm. Hmm.
That must be there. You must automate your guardrails in DevOps, MLOps, looking at how you build your AI, going back to the basics, implementing a lot more safeguards than you would have now coming through your governance model. You know, building,
Yeah.
looking at how it starts and how it goes through the development life cycle. You must promote a culture of responsible curiosity. You should be asking, why should we do this?
Hmm.
How can we do this? Can we do this? Well, it comes back in explainable AI, where a category looks at the ability and giving individuals that ability, that opportunity to ask a lot of questions. Because this is how persons are going to understand, organizations, cultures are going to understand what is happening. Not everyone is at the same point. So we must be able to communicate while sharing that information, right? Some advice now for professionals in the area.
Yeah.
Upskilling privacy engineering. Some people will say MLOps. I'm not too sure about that. But some
Me
about the
neither.
auditing and data ethics. Data ethics is very important. Everyone should
Very.
know, even your personal information. How do
Yeah.
you protect it?
I.
Be bilingual. Speak both data and compliance,
Hmm.
right? Data and compliance. What is data mining? What is metadata? What is compliance? What is risk? You need to see these things and how they function alongside each other, and how they interrelated. And success metrics equal trust. You
Okay.
cannot be
Yeah.
the only person that trusts your system. Your customers must trust your system. If the customers are not on board, your stakeholders are not on board, the regulators are not on board, then that equals no trust.
Yeah, I mean that equals disaster. So yeah, great advice here, Horatio. I think culture really is the first firewall, as I call it. You can patch the code faster than you can, patch the mindset, so to speak. So okay, all right. So now for individual professionals, data scientists, privacy officers, security engineers, what skills or mindset would you encourage them to acquire to thrive at this intersection?
Um, keeping it privacy,
Okay,
keeping it privacy.
like that.
Learn the basic rules of how you can keep your data private. Because if it shouldn't be on the DPO or the processor or whoever, the privacy officer, to know
Mhm,
everything about how do I keep my information private.
mhm,
What are some of the regulations? What are some of the effects if I fall down in my duty as a data scientist? Ethics, discrimination, bias. You must seek to upskill yourself in those areas as a part of the culture of the organization, right?
mhm.
Because the leaders will be teaching, but will you be learning?
Yeah, that's another thing. So, to me, I mean, it kind of wheels back to my previous comment that I made regarding your question. But it sounds like the future belongs to the. I call them. This is kind of my term, like tech philosophers. Because you know how to code as a engineer, for example, but the new way is to actually, okay, you know how to code, but now you need to know how to question, like reason. Critical thinking is something that comes in. So you know very rare right now, but I think it's a growing breed. And that's how I would conclude the whole thing. This is how I look at the and I also aligned with what you just also shared with us here. So this is really really great. Okay, so Horatio, any final thought or message you would want to leave our listeners with, as we wrap up here today?
Uh, Big data is good, right? But all of
Yeah.
this depends on your governance, your culture in your organizations, right? If you don't
Hmm.
have that in the organization, you're gonna be in problems. Big data can give you power, but if you can't use it, that equals zero. If it cannot be secured, it equals zero. Privacy gives us permission to do
Permission.
stuff.
I like that.
If not, there are gonna be consequences. And governance gives us purpose, right? So if we bring together big data, privacy, and governance, somehow being able to amalgamate that, if you are able to do so, you will have a better organization, you'll be better placed moving into the future.
Right. I I think it's beautifully said. I love it. Very simple, but very true. So I would say we should all keep in mind or remember that privacy isn't just a checkbox. It's pretty much how we design trust, right? I mean,
Yep.
this is the bottom line. Okay, so this is a good input here. Okay, so Horatio, I mean, I just want to thank you so much for being with us today. This was really good and entertaining conversation. And to all of our listeners, I hope you found today's discussion insightful. And if you did, please hit the subscribe button, like this episode, and share it with your peers and friends across the entire industry.
Hey,
So
Daniel, I
yes,
didn't tell them how to get in touch with me if they need to get me. Horatio
Please.
Morgan from Morgan Signing House LLC. You can hit me up at horatio.morgan37@gmail.com
Of
and
course.
find me
So
on
now,
LinkedIn.
now you know where to find Horatio, and I'm sure if you have any follow-up, questions, you can address that directly to Horatio. So for all the listeners, please stay tuned for our next episode of Secure by Design by Sycnora. And until then, stay curious, as I always say, stay secure, and as always, build with purpose. So long again, Horatio. Thank you so much, and see you again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.